We need to respect the 10th Amendment, stop passing legislation at the federal level when it ought to be handled at the state level.
Get rid of
That's right. So, again, this is all under the title of how are you going to reduce the size and scope of government. I can stand up here and think of other things, but that's a really big thrust of this campaign and really this movement, I believe. Yes, sir, you had your hand, and then there, and then there.
I think most of us are aware that many states in this country are in the process of trying to repeal or overturn Obama's Health Care Act. In your opinion, how realistic is that? Could they succeed in repealing that or overturning it?
It's possible. It's going to be challenging. I will be part of the effort to enact genuine health care reform, to try and move away from this big government, highly regulated plan to reform health care and enact some reform that actually retains our ability to make our most fundamental life decisions and brings down the cost of health insurance. In order to do that, I believe conservatives, those who respect the Constitution, believe in limited government, and believe in personal responsibility and individual liberty, we got to get a pretty significant majority to make that happen. And all of you are the key, not me. Individually, I'm part of it, but the American people need to speak up and tell their members of Congress that we want you to go back to the drawing table and pass some real health care reform. That's the only way things happen in this country.
But is that realistic? I mean, even in all 50 states?
Probably won't happen in the next Congress. I mean, that's what I am hearing from the pundits. I'm not a political expert here, but I'm hearing we're gonna have to really grow our majority in Congress to get this done, to have enough oomph to visit health care reform again and to change this legislation. So, you know, stay engaged. I'm going to fight for it, or I wouldn't be up here if I were giving up. But this is 1/6 of our economy that I think is being set on a path towards a single-payer system. We have to turn this thing around. This is what is driving healthcare inflation, is what is driving our long-term debt problems. So we have to address it. Unfortunately, this legislation does not. So if I weren't an optimist in my bones that we could overcome these pretty significant odds, I wouldn't be running for office. I'd be home with my kids tonight. But I believe in this country, and I believe in its people, and I think we'll get it done.
We can do it.
Yes?
Congress has a history of passing laws for the rest of the country and exempting themselves from these laws.
Yeah, it's offensive.
What, if anything, can we do about that? Can we get them to abide by the same laws that they always apply to everybody else?
The question was about this tendency of members of Congress to kind of create a separate legal class for themselves in a way, right? Now, seem to be part of we the people. Instead, there have been some carve-outs in recent years in some different areas, and I will be no part of that. I'll push to ensure that anytime we have a government program, especially a significant government program like health care reform passed, members of Congress live under the very laws they create, which is why I support a constitutional amendment limiting terms. I support a term limit amendment because I think it's essential that members of Congress know that someday they're going to have to go back into the real world and live under the very laws they create. That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. We've got this gentleman here. And then, just pipe up next time, I'm sorry.
Thinking the guy in Rango, I think income taxes was included in with what he said.
Well, yeah, we got to pay our taxes, right? Yes, sir.
I just want to say it's always referred to as Obamacare this, but Hill had just as much to do with it as Obama and voting for every different version of it and voting with Nancy Pelosi like 94% of the time that he spent in Congress. And if they're using the interstate commerce clause as a means to justify the forcing everyone to have this health insurance, why isn't it regulated by the Department of Commerce and not the Health and Human Services? And just on a different note, I was monitoring some of the Barron Hill propaganda, and the criticism that came up of you that I thought was a little offensive, and I'd like to hear your response to it, is that you were just basically a transplanted GOP puppet.
I'd heard,
into this
I'd seen that,
district.
yeah.
And I'd just like to hear your comments on that, because
I told you the background. I fell in love with a Paoli girl, and 4 kids later, we work in Paoli. We live in Bloomington, Feast Your Eyes, so Bloomington Republican, Bloomington Conservative. Yeah. I live halfway between Jenny's parents, our kids' grandparents, and my parents up in central Indiana. And I guess the best Barron Hill's got is that somehow I'm a transplant by the governor, somebody who didn't grow up here and doesn't share the same values. Well, I'll tell you, it doesn't take long to figure out that Barron Hill, if he had the Southern Indiana values, no longer shares them because he has become a part and parcel, a creature of the establishment. And I know that's hard hitting, but you want to play that game, bring it on. Because you know, this campaign is led by all of you. This campaign is part of a larger movement and represents the finest values of this part of the country and the American people. I like to think I have a lot of pride in what we're accomplishing here, and for him to somehow write it off, write our values off is inconsistent with Southern Indiana. It's you know, nice try. So,
Thank you.
yes, sir.